Welcome to the channel. In this video we're going to be going over a werewolf tank. Due to the changes made to an armor set with Greymoor update, where you can now tank on a werewolf, and it's different, I will say. So let's go ahead and jump into it, and I'll go over some of the things that I tried out. So max magicka is 19.3k, maximum health is 37.4, and max stamina is 20k. Magic recovery is 1.2, stamina recovery is 1.2, health recovery is 585. The reason why I make mention of these is because it can change depending on what your food is. Now keep in mind, my weapon damage is 2.2, and the reason why I'm bringing that up is I'll get to why I'm bringing that up. Spell resistance is 21k, and physical resistance is 21.1. Seems relatively low, but after we buff up, plus with the werewolf transformation, we are at cap. Well, we're right around cap as a werewolf, so it works out. I'm an Imperial, so keep in mind you might have to change some points to your liking, but I have 32 points into magicka, 13 into health, and 19 in the stamina. The food that I'm running is basic crown food, crown tri-staff food. Now, if you increase if you use Bewitched, your stats do go up a little bit. Not a whole lot, but your health recovery will go up to 1.2 as well. I've been running Bewitched because I like that little more health recovery there, and it doesn't hurt the rest of my stats. So now the boon that we're running is the Warrior, because we want to get the most out of our damage, and we are a werewolf. So champion points, we have 23 Warlord, 25 Sprinter, 19 Bashing Focus, 64 Tenacity, 64 Arcanist, 31 Tumbling, 44 Shadow Ward, 64 Blessed. Pretty good to have for healing, main thing. For the most part on tanks, this is the main thing. But because we're a werewolf, we also have 53 into Physical Weapon Expert, because this will increase the damage done with our light and heavy attacks as well when we're in werewolf form. So it's going to be 27% increase, and then we have Mastered Arms to increase the damage done with direct damage attacks. We do have a direct damage attack with our Howl in werewolf form, and then we have 40 Thermometer, 11 Precise Strike. We have this so low because we're not really going to crit that much because our crit is low. So we have 22 Piercing and 43 Mighty. So 31 Ironclad, 32 Spell Shield, 64 Hardy, 64 Elemental Defender, 13 Bastion, 32 Quick Recovery, and 34 Heavy Armor Focus. We do kind of use a shield in the basic tank mode, but you're not going to be using a shield as a werewolf. So we have more points into quick recovery here than we do Bastion. So, sets. The first set we were running is Eternal Vigor. We're running this on the body pieces. We have infused legs, infused chest, both with max health, and then we have Divines, waist, boots, and feet. Or boots and feet. Waist, Divines, waist, hands, and feet. Now the reason why we're running Divines is because it's going to increase the damage from our Mundus Stone. Okay? Now, I tried out different sets. I tried out Clever Alchemist. I tried out Fury. Fury just didn't seem too consistent as a werewolf. You know, you are taking a lot of damage, but when you're fighting the boss by itself, that damage isn't going to be there. Clever Alchemist was a good choice as well, but in the end I end up settling for the health recovery, or just the recoveries you get out of Vigor. Eternal Vigor here just seems to be the one to go with. I really like using it. It seems to be the best for me. By all means, if you don't want to get Eternal Vigor, you can still go with Clever Alchemist, and you'll probably be able to push your weapon damage higher than what I had. And I'll go over my weapon damage here in a minute. Now, the monster set we're running is Malekina. We're running Divine Medium Shoulders and Medium Divine's Helmet with max health enchants on both. Now, the 511 would be best, but I did not have a light Kina helmet or a light Kina shoulders. I just didn't. But anyways, what Kina does is going to give us weapon damage or spell damage, and then when you do damage with 2 consecutive light attacks, you trigger Overkill for 6 seconds, which increases your weapon and spell damage by 541, but also increases the cost of your abilities by 8%. The cost of the ability isn't that big of a deal, because for the most part, we're going to be using just a few abilities in our werewolf form. We're mostly going to be light attacking. light or heavy attacking. So it just works out pretty well. Fully buffed up in werewolf form, you can get your weapon damage up to 4.9k. You're at cap resistances, and we have a huge health and stamina pool. It's ridiculous. You do a lot of damage. So, and honestly, when it comes to tanking as a werewolf, I find it best to do to go for damage as well, not just straight being tanky. That's just me. Now, if you want to go more tanky based, but as a werewolf, you know, you're going to deal damage. You're going to want to deal damage. So why not go with a set like this? So, if you don't want to use this, the other monster set that I recommend would be Swarm Mothers, so that way you can block and pull in the people around you, because you don't have a pull as a werewolf. That's the only thing you're missing. So you don't have a pull in werewolf form, but so Swarm Mothers wouldn't be bad. And but if you want to go for more damage, just to increase your attack there, go with Kina. That's be my choice. Or you can always use Celine too as a proc set, but I dealt more damage with Kina than I did with Celine's as well. Now, you've got to have this next 5-piece set. It is the only way that you can tank as a werewolf, and it is the Tormentor set. We're running an infused sword with a crusher enchant on our front bar. Because this is the bar we're going to go into werewolf form, we want crusher on our front bar. Because while we're in werewolf form, we're not going to be able to put down our wall of elements or whatever to keep the enchantment on the back bar. So we have a weakening enchant on the back bar, an infused ice staff, and then we have the crusher enchant on our sword and board. Now our shield is divines with a max health. Again, that's just to increase the damage from our Mundus Stone. So this can be, you don't really need it to be reinforced. It doesn't really matter if it's sturdy, because in werewolf form, you're not going to get the benefits from the shield for that much. So any passives you get in the sword and board bar, you're not going to get that, because you're a werewolf. So at least this way you will still get the divine trait, you'll still get the extra max health, and you'll get your crusher enchant while you're in werewolf form. So this just seemed to be the better setup for me. If you find you would rather have something different, by all means go for it. This is just what worked best for me. Now, what this does, it gives us max health, healing take, and when you do a direct damage with a charge, leap, teleport, or pull ability, you gain 3.5k physical and spell resistance and taunt the enemy to attack you for 15 seconds. So, werewolves have a leap. That is basically what we're going to be used to taunting everything. And in doing so, it's an AoE pounce, or leap. So that way, all the enemies around the initial enemy that we hit is going to get taunted as well. So usually you can taunt an entire room of adds with just 2 leaps, as long as you place it kind of in the center of the mobs that you're jumping at. So we're running it sword and board, ice staff back bar, and then we're running jewelry with all weapon damage enchant, because we want that more of that weapon damage. So like I said, monster sets, you can go with Celine's, you can go with Veldreth if you wanted to, or if you want more weapon damage. If you don't have Kina, Crags wouldn't be bad either, but Kina, I think, will give you the best bang for your buck when it comes to damage. Now, if you want to be more tank utility, Swarm Mothers. It will give you a pull. Honestly, that's the only tanking set I can really think of that would give you any benefit. Lord Warden, you're already going to be overcapped on your resistances as it is, so you don't need that extra resistances from Lord Warden. You won't need you don't need Major Resolve or anything like that, so you don't need Mighty Judan, because you're going to get that through your Werewolf passive as well. So now, Eternal Vigor, you know, I would either, if you want to go for more damage, switch this out with Clever Alchemist. But I like the little extra resources that I get. So because I am using Kina, that extra recovery and everything works for me. So now, skills. Skills is just a basic setup for a tank. You know, Pierce Armor, it's your main taunt when you're not. It's going to apply Major Fracture and Major Breach, reducing their physical and spell resistance by 5.2k for 15 seconds. That's your major taunt. Heroic Slash. I should say, I am a Nightblade with this setup. The reason why I'm a Nightblade is the Nightblade gets back their ultimate so quick. Probably one of the faster ones. If I had to pick the 3 classes that I would use a werewolf tank on, Nightblade being my favorite, because I get back so much ultimate. Necros are really good class as well because they do get ultimate back pretty quick as well. But if you want to go for damage, nothing beats the Sam Sorcerer when it comes to damage because they're passives. They do get that extra, I think it's like extra 5 or 10% in physical damage and shock damage. Werewolf's damage are physical damage. So a Sorcerer Werewolf tank would give you more damage, where Necromancers and Nightblades will give you better ulti regen, so that way you can keep your werewolf form up. If you drop, you can get it back faster. So, but outside of that, Heroic Slash, it's going to deal some damage, it's going to inflict them with Minor Maim. We're going to gain Minor Heroism, granting us 1 ultimate every 1.5 seconds for 12 seconds. So this is why we're going to get our ultimate back here. Then we have Dark Cloak. It's going to heal us, and it's going to give us Minor Protection, which is going to reduce our damage by 8%. It's going to heal us for 2.5k every 1 second over 8 seconds. So that's basically that. Mirage, we're going to surround ourselves and our aura to gain major evasion, minor resolve, reducing damage from area attacks by 25%, increasing your physical and spell resistance by 1.3 for 26 seconds. Also, while activating this ability, I want to say it's in this one. It is not in this one. It is Shadowline. Okay, so basically when we activate our Shadow ability, Dark Cloak or Refreshing Path, because we have Refreshing Path on our back bar, we're going to get Major Resolve, which is going to increase for 6 seconds, increase your physical and spell resistance by 5.2. Duration is increased by 25% for each piece of heavy armor equipped. Current bonus is 125%. Duration lasts for 13.5 seconds. So it's not a bad one. So, and if we run out, another way to gain ultimate, that's Catalyst. When we drink a potion, we gain 20 ultimate. So, and then of course, when we cast a Siphon ability, we generate 2 ultimate. This effect can occur once every 4 seconds. Our ability that we're going to cast is going to be Leeching Strikes. So, now, Mirage, defensive stance. This is just here to help us because we're not using Sturdy or anything like that. While you have a shield equipped, the amount of damage you can block is increased by 10%. The cost of blocking is reduced by 10%. Because we're not using Sturdy, this comes in handy a lot. We really want this on our bar. Now, if you still want to be able to use Tormentor set, Lotus Fan here. It's a teleport. It's a leap. So this right here, plus it applies minor vulnerability for 10 seconds, increasing our damage done, or damage taken by 8%. So if you wanted to, if you're not really having that much trouble like in normal dungeons, use Lotus Fan. You can just teleport to them, they'll get minor vulnerability put on them. And they're taunted in that process. So, now, our ultimate on our front bar, we're going with Pack Leader. We're going to transform into a beast, fearing nearby enemies for 3 seconds. While transform, your max stamina is increased by 30%. You take 10% less damage, and you summon 2 direwolves. You also grant yourself and nearby allies minor courage, increasing their weapon and spell damage by 129. While slotted, your stamina recovery is increased by 15%. So, back bar, in a rage. This is a ranged taunt. We're basically going to taunt the enemy to attack us for 15 seconds. A ranged ally targeting the taunted enemy can activate the Radiant Synergy, dealing 4.8k magic damage to them over 3 seconds. Then an additional 4.8k magic damage to them and other nearby enemies. This is our pull. Silver Leash, fire Dawnguard's crossbow hook to pull an enemy to you, dealing 3.3k physical damage and reduce their movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. Now, one thing I should say about this move, Inner Fire, is that it's not going to give you, it will taunt them, but it's not going to put Major Fracture or Major Breach on them. So you're going to want to hit them with that. Hit them with Pierce Armor, so that way they get it. As you can see, there it is. And then, of course, our Weakening Edge, our Crusher enchant will go off as well. So, you know, our pull, will pull a mob to us. And then we have Wall Down, which will just put a Weakening, basically lower their spell and weapon damage. So it's really nice. Refreshing Path. It's going to be a corridor. It's going to give us Major Expedition, and it's also going to heal anybody standing in it, as you can see. Major Expedition increased movement speed by 30%. Effect persists for 4 seconds after leaving the path. Heals for 1k health to you and allies in the area every 1 second. The duration is 12 seconds. That's all it is to it. Leeching Strikes. This is a bigger dealer's choice. Basically, Leeching Strikes, it's going to imbue your weapon with soul-stealing power, causing your light and heavy attacks to heal you for 1.6k health, and restore 106 stamina for 20 seconds. Fully charged heavy attacks restore twice the value. You restore up to 4.2k additional stamina when the effect ends, based on the length of time Leeching Strikes was active. So, you're going to want this active all times, for the most part, when you're in your base form. And when you're not, if you're just trying to get ultimate back, cast it every 2 seconds, or every 4 seconds. Let's see, it's 325, 1, 2, 3, 4. You cast it again, and you should get 2 back. Maybe I'm miscounting that. Let's give it a second. Let's wait until it gets down to 10 seconds. It should be going off. I do not know why my ultimate is not increasing there, but it should. Maybe it's because I'm not in combat. But anyways, so and on our back bar we have Warhorn. Now there are certain times you're not going to want to go Werewolf, or Werewolf just isn't the play. So we have Aggressive Warhorn on our back bar, which will increase you and your group's max magic and stamina by 10% for 30 seconds. You and your allies gain major force, increase your critical damage by 15% for 10 seconds. Now keep in mind, if you don't, this is a PvP skill, so if you don't have it, you can always put like Consuming Darkness or Soul Shroud on the back bar. Either one of those would work. You know, just grab whichever morph suits you. So, now when it comes to Werewolf, if I can look at these skills. Okay, well, we're just going to go down here to the Werewolf. Okay. So we're using Pack Leader. Right, there we go. So, of course, as the ultimate, we're using Pack Leader. I already went over this. We're going to take 10% less damage. Our max stamina is going to be increased by 30%. We're going to summon 2 dire wolves. And also grant yourself and nearby allies minor courage, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 129. Also, your stamina recovery is increased by 15%. Now, Brutal Bounce is the one we're going to use because this bounce pounds on an enemy with Primal Fury, dealing 4.1k physical damage to them and to other nearby enemies. Activating this ability again within the next 5 seconds causes you to cast Brutal Carnage. Brutal Carnage causes the enemy to bleed for 2.9k physical damage over 10 seconds and deals up to 450% more damage to enemies under 100% health. Increase your weapon damage by 90 for each enemy hit up to a maximum of 6 times. So when you jump into a big herd of enemies with that, you're going to gain a lot of weapon damage as well. Should be skills. So, then we have Claws of Life. Shred enemies in front of you with your Tainted Claws, dealing 5.1k disease damage and additional 5.1k disease damage over 10 seconds. You get healed for 116% of the damage over time caused. Enemies hit by the initial hit are afflicted with disease status effect. I think which the disease status effect is, I think it's either minor or major defile, one of the two, lowering their health recovery. It's one of those. I can't remember off the top of my head right now. So, but you want Claws of Life because you want that extra little heal. But of course, we have a burst heal in Hircine's Fortitude. Invoke the Huntsman's Blessing, healing you for 20.7k health and increasing your health and stamina recovered by 3% of the healing cost for 6 seconds, up to a maximum of 666. This portion of the ability scales off your max health. If you are at full health, you instead restore 3,000 stamina. While slotted, you gain Major Brutality, increasing your weapon damage by 20%. So this is how we're going to get Major Brutality. So we can use tripods or trash pods. Doesn't matter. But while we have this on our bar, while we're in wolf form, we're going to get Major Brutality. So, it's just nice to have. Deafening Roar. Or Bloodlust, terrify up to 6 nearby enemies, fearing them for 4 seconds and setting them off balance for 7 seconds. So, I know a lot of tanks run Lightning Staff backbar to help with off balance. This is going to set them off balance. Your Roar also leaves enemy dazed, applying Major Fracture and Minor Maim, reducing their physical resistance by 5.2 and damage done by 15% for 8 seconds. So, basically Heroic Slash puts Minor Maim on the target. Now we will not apply Major Breach, which will lower their spell resistance. But most healers should be running Ellie Drain. So with that being the case, Ellie Drain does put Major Breach on the target. So they will get that. So Ellie Drain also puts Magic Still, or Minor Magic Still, on the target, but it also applies Major Breach. So therefore, as long as your healer is putting Ellie Drain, you're applying Major Fracture. They're going to have the debuffs as if you pierced armor them. So just that is one thing to keep in mind. So if your healer is not running Ellie Drain, then the magic DPS might suffer a little bit, but I mean it's not a big thing. While slaughtered, you gain Major Savagery, increasing your weapon critical rating by 2.1k. So your crit is going to be, I think it's like 47%. Well, we'll look at it at the end. but I still don't think that's high enough to run the Shadow Mundus Stone. So that's the reason why we're just going to go ahead and run the weapon. If you wanted to, you can run the Thief, but your weapon damage is going to be lower. So it's just up to you on what you want to do. Now, Howl of Agony, crush enemies with a deafening howl, dealing 6.8k physical damage. Enemies who are feared or facing you take 23% more damage from this attack. And you are the tank, so the enemy should be facing you. Okay, so let's go ahead and Hulk out here. Or not Hulk out, Wolf out. And you can see the bar. So, as you can see, our weapon damage is 3.1, weapon critical is 29%. Our resistances is 31 and 31.1. Now, as we attack, let's just go ahead and do some stuff here. Or just spam our abilities, get Kina going. We're at 3.9, 34.5k spell resistance, 34.6k resistances. So we're over cap. And I'm telling you, with group buffs and stuff like that going, you will see a huge increase in damage. I don't know why it is not that high, but I have seen it in a group with people at 49. Well, that was with a Illyrium buff as well. So yeah, so if the healer has Illyrium on as well, you'll be looking at 4.9k when everything is said and done. And then with the leap and everything, as you can see, you are going to deal a ton of damage. And you just got a light attack. It is really stupid how much damage you can do in this form. See, the dogs are biting, dealing 200 apiece. Your claws are shredding them. Let's go with a bounce again. Restore stamina with that. So as you can see, we're going to deal a lot of damage. It's not that much, but it's something. I think this is the best, one of the best, probably the best setup for a werewolf tank. You are going to be over cap on your resistances. You're going to have, if your healer is running spell power or Illyrium, you're going to be over 4k weapon damage. You're going to be over cap on your resistances. You have a huge health pool. You have 25k stamina. Plus, you know, if you're full health, it's just going to work out pretty well. And in the end, it is pretty nice. And as you can see, got buddy trolling me. So, either way, it's fun. It's different. Now, the one thing I can say about Werewolf is that sometimes there are incidents where Brutal Pounce will glitch out. I can't pounce an enemy, I can't jump on him, so I can't taunt him. And the only way that I can reset that is to basically despawn back into my normal form, rebuild up my ultimate, and go for it again. When that happens, that usually fixes it. So all you gotta do is just despawn and respawn. But the hardest dungeon I've done this in, I will say I did take it through Falkreath Hold On Vet, because I know there's a lot of bosses in there that are one-shot mechanics. You know, the Mammoth can one-shot you if you don't block when he charges you. Plus Domas has a one-shot. You know, he hits hard. The Skeleton hits hard. It was as if I was a normal tank, even in werewolf form. I wasn't taking the damage. It was nice. I was able to deal out damage, and we did not have any trouble at all getting through stuff. I didn't have any trouble staying up on my own. So, werewolf tanking, it's fun. It is different. So it will take some time to get used to. But in the end, if you try it out, I think you will enjoy it. But don't forget, the only way to tank as a werewolf is with this one set, the Tormentor. You can put Tormentor, and you can combine it with whatever you want the rest of the way. That is entirely up to you. This is what I found worked for me. You can go with Celine's, you can go with Bloodspawn. Even though I think anything that would increase your resistances would just be overdoing it. But that's just me. Go with whatever makes you feel comfortable as a tank, because right now, tanking as a werewolf is something new. I will say that. And if you use a werewolf tank, I would try to get you a friend. There was a couple times going into random dungeons with random people trying to do it with pugs. The moment I wolfed out, I pretty much got kicked from group. I will say that because I turned into a werewolf. And in vet dungeons, werewolves are not tanks. You know, they still don't. They still have that stigma. And to be honest with you, if I saw somebody wolf out on me in the middle of a vet dungeon, probably the first thing I'd think to is they're not a tank. But with Tormentor set, they can be tanks now. They have, so I think a hybrid DPS style tank for a wolf is the best way to go. But if you feel like you want to go a more conventional route, by all means, go for it. Clever Alchemist would be the other set I would use here if you want to be a more DPS oriented. But Eternal Vigor was my main choice. I'm just really loving this set right now, no matter how I use it. Whether it's in PvP, the Werewolf tank, or just tanking in general. I'm loving this set. So, either way, that is pretty much the Werewolf setup. I hope you try it out. Let me know how you run your Werewolf tank in the comment sections. I really want to hear how y'all have been doing it, how anybody else has been running it that has done it. So please let me know. And as always, until next time, take care.